The Senate floor was unusually tense, the air sharp with expectation, as the cameras rolled and the nation tuned in. JD Vance, fresh off a string of viral debates, adjusted his tie and leaned into the microphone, voice steady but eyes glinting with challenge. "If Representative Jasmine Crockett is as brilliant as her Twitter fingers suggest," he said with a sardonic smile, "then I invite her, right here, right now, to take an IQ test. Let's end the theatrics and let numbers speak." Gasps echoed in the chamber. Reporters in the press gallery raised their phones higher. Crockett sat motionless for a moment, hands folded, gaze piercing through Vance like she had heard the challenge 100 times in 100 different forms. But then she did something unexpected. She smiled, not the smile of someone taken aback, but the knowing, simmering grin of someone holding a card no one had seen played before. Rising from her seat with effortless composure, she walked to the podium without a single word, opened her binder, and slowly pulled out a sealed white envelope. Its presence alone seemed to hush the crowd. She held it up to the chamber like a magician about to unveil the final act. 36 seconds, she said coolly, tapping her finger against the envelope. "That's all it took for me to decide not to take your bait." JD Vance looked momentarily puzzled, then amused. "Is that supposed to be your answer?" he sneered. "A letter?" Crockett held up a single finger. "No, Senator. This is your answer." And with deliberate calm, she cracked the wax seal. Inside was a neatly folded document, official, government-stamped, with the kind of formatting that instantly conveyed weight. She read aloud, "This is a certified report from the U.S. Department of Education, dated 2 years prior, following an intelligence aptitude study of congressional members under voluntary participation. My IQ was tested. The results placed me in the top 0.1 percentile nationwide. Verified. Certified. Unpublicized, until now." The room held its breath. She continued, "I chose not to release this because I believe intelligence isn't measured by test scores, but by service, compassion, and consistency. But since you want numbers, Senator, you now have them." Vance's face hardened, but she wasn't done. She stepped forward again. "Oh, and for the record," she said, her voice gaining heat, "I was also accepted into Mensa at age 23. I declined because I was too busy helping wrongly incarcerated clients get justice in Texas courts. You remember that work, right? Or do you only read what comes through a partisan lens?" The floor erupted, not with noise, but with the thunderous stillness of stunned silence. Even the usual murmurs from the gallery were muted. JD Vance shifted uncomfortably, then reached for his notepad as if hoping to recover control. But Crockett wasn't giving it back. "You see, I don't need to play games to prove my worth," she said. "I don't challenge men to contests to earn space in the room. I own my space. Every inch of it. And no test, no envelope, no insult can change that." The moment was electric. Lawmakers on both sides exchanged stunned glances. Social media exploded in real time, hashtags flooding the digital space, hashtag letter crushed Vance, hashtag IQ Queen, hashtag Jasmine Unsealed. But none of it mattered more than the message she left lingering in the air. "Senator Vance," she said finally, her voice now low and razor sharp, "you came here to play chess. But I've been 3 moves ahead since I stepped into Congress. So if you're going to challenge me again, bring more than ego. Bring evidence." And with that, she slid the letter back into her binder, returned to her seat, and let the silence speak for itself. The camera zoomed in on Vance, who avoided eye contact, looking every bit the man who challenged a champion without reading the playbook. The Senate adjourned minutes later, but the damage was already done. That 36 seconds had birthed a moment that would echo for years, not because of a number, but because of the woman who knew she didn't need one to win. JD Vance had barely finished his smug sentence when the room seemed to hold its collective breath. Challenging Jasmine Crockett to an IQ test in front of the nation wasn't just bold. It was foolish, but the senator didn't realize just how foolish until 36 seconds later, because what he saw in Jasmine wasn't just silence, it was calculation, composure, a kind of poised fury that knew exactly when to speak and when to strike. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even raise her voice. She simply rose, slow and sure, like a tidal wave on a still sea, walking to the podium not like someone on defense, but like a queen claiming her space, and in her hand was an envelope, white and sealed, quiet but deafening. She held it up like it was the declaration of truth, and what came next would be recorded, shared, and studied for years to come, because instead of snapping back with words or insults, she gave the chamber 36 seconds of dead silence, letting the weight of the challenge hang in the air like smoke. Then, with the calm precision of a seasoned trial lawyer, she broke the seal and revealed not a retort, not a speech, but proof. Hard, cold, government-verified documentation from the U.S. Department of Education, showing that Jasmine Crockett had already taken an intelligence test, not yesterday, not for the media, but years ago under quiet voluntary testing by congressional scholars, and not only did she score high, she landed in the top 0.1 percentile of the entire country, a level of cognitive aptitude so rare that even the test administrators had reportedly followed up twice to confirm the results, but that wasn't the shocking part. The part that shook the smug off JD Vance's face came next, because Jasmine didn't stop at numbers. She continued with receipts, detailing how she was invited to Mensa at age 23, and declined, not because she couldn't, but because she was too busy fighting in Texas courtrooms for men and women wrongly convicted, filing appeals at midnight while others were preparing campaign ads. Her intelligence wasn't performative, it was functional, transformative, rooted in results not rhetoric. And then, just as she had dismantled the core of Vance's challenge, she turned philosophical, asking the chamber why intelligence is only celebrated when it's packaged in certain skin, certain accents, certain politics, why we worship tests until a black woman aces them, and suddenly they're irrelevant, or biased, or unnecessary. She reminded the nation watching that brilliance doesn't always wear a tie. Sometimes it wears curls and heels and a fire forged in justice. And while Vance sat scribbling furiously on his pad pretending not to be flustered, the chamber had already chosen who won the moment. Because there's nothing more commanding than confidence backed by preparation, and Jasmine was prepared in ways Vance never anticipated, because she didn't just bring a letter, she brought legacy, history, strategy, and the calm fury of a woman who's been underestimated her entire life and turned every dismissal into a data point, every insult into insight. And when she finally finished, she looked at Vance not with anger but with pity, because she saw the truth he couldn't hide, that in 36 seconds, she turned his stunt into his shame. And as she returned to her seat, the silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was reverent, because no one needed to say who won. The letter said it all.